What if I told you that it's going to be perfectly legal for your state to sell you a lawful machine gun? That's right, MP5, M16, you name it. Not everything, but a handful of different things. What's the catch? You got to pay a $250 fee. No, seriously, what's the catch? No, that's everything. Yes, this is absolutely legal. There's a proposed bill, but will it pass? It's now been introduced in 2 different states. It's growing. What the heck am I talking about? Folks, let's get into it. All right, so what we're talking about is now 2 bills that could legally sell machine guns directly to state residents and citizens, and it just cleared its first hurdle in that state Senate. We're talking about West Virginia. There's a second state that has introduced it already. I'm going to get to that later. But then something happened. And it's a little bit murky about what potentially it is that happened. John Crump's the first person to report on that story, but supposedly a pro-gun lobbyist tried to kill the bill from the inside. The bill appears to be likely dead for this legislative session, but the story of what happened in Charleston, West Virginia, tells you everything you need to know about politics of gun rights advocacy and why the 2A community is sometimes justified in questioning their own people and organizations. So let's start with the bill itself, because you're probably really confused about what it is I'm talking about here. Because the legal structure for how this happens is actually genuinely interesting and fascinating if you're unaware of it. So this is West Virginia Senate Bill 1071, the Public Defense and Provisioning Act. This was introduced February 23rd by Senators Chris Rose and Zach Maynard, with help from the Gun Owners of America. Fantastic organization. You should absolutely join them. The bill would create a state office of public defense housed within the West Virginia State Police Department that would purchase, so this is the government would purchase fully automatic machine guns. We're talking about M16 platform rifles, we're talking about M249 squad automatic weapons, and we're talking about MP5 submachine guns. Those specifically, as well as potentially others that are in common use by military and law enforcement. And then sell them to qualified West Virginia residents at every state police headquarters across the state. Buyers would have to undergo a background check, pay a $250 surcharge, plus the administrative fees that could apply. We're not talking about a lot, is my understanding here. So this isn't something where they're trying to soak you for thousands and thousands of dollars. And also keep in mind, if you try to buy a pre-86 transferable, if you're following me, a pre-86 transferable, which we all know costs tens of thousands of dollars basically for all of these, I assure you, if you look at market prices of what police departments are buying these for, it's 4 digits, and typically very low 4 digits, maybe $1,800, a couple thousand, several thousand. Okay, the M249s, that might be a little bit different, but not much more different. Odds are the West Virginia State Police Department probably has to pay a little bit more for an M249 than, for instance, a U.S. military contract. But still, I would wager, if you're familiar with these prices, we're probably still going to be in the 4 figures, which is something. How is it that they're doing this is what I know you're going to ask me. So the federal law in question, and this is where people get confused, it's not whether this violates the Hughes Amendment. That would be the law people say, whoa, you can't have a post-1986 manufactured machine gun that ends up in civilian hands. That's the Hughes Amendment. We have to thank for that. So this is going to be a Hughes Amendment violation, would be the argument. Except the Hughes Amendment explicitly recognizes this particular avenue. Here's the relevant statute. 18 U.S.C. section 922 sub O prohibits the civilian transfer of machine guns manufactured after May 19th, 1986. That's why you hear people talk about, oh, it's a post-86 versus a pre-86 transferable. Manufactured on or before May 19th, 1986. That means that you and I can own that, assuming you down there, it's not a prohibited possessor, no felonies, stuff like that. But then you've got section sub O, sub 2, sub A, which creates an explicit exemption for transfers to or by or possession by or under the authority of a state. Because remember, what I said before, 18 U.S.C. 922 sub O, that's what prohibits the civilian transfer of machine guns manufactured after May 19th in 1986. But there's an exception. If it's transferred to or by and or possession is taking place under the authority of the state. So Congress wrote that exemption into the law deliberately, wasn't just they started mashing on the keyboard and that's what came out. States are permitted to transfer machine guns, including post-1986 machine guns, to civilians under that statutory, that's code for legal framework. Senate bill in West Virginia, 1071, is designed to operate exactly within that statutory channel. Gun Owners of America has been all over this. And I believe they've been all over it both in front of the scenes as well as behind the scenes, which is one of the fantastic reasons to love GOA. They are super involved behind the scenes on things. GOA has been emphatic on this point. The claim that this bill violates federal law, absolutely false. It's the opposite. It's simply activating a portion of federal law that's been largely dormant. The legal argument for the bill's compliance with federal law looks pretty dang sound if, you just pick up the federal law and go, oh yeah, I see how this adds up. So what happened to all this? So on March 2nd, 2026, the Senate Judiciary Committee advanced Senate bill in West Virginia, 1071, by voice vote, sending it to the Finance Committee with less than 24 hours to go before crossover day. That's the deadline by which bills must pass their originating chamber to remain viable for the session. So Senate, you got to go to the Assembly. Assembly, you got to go to the Senate. A tight timeline, but still technically possible. That's where things got strange. AmmoLand News reported that over the weekend, before the committee vote, a lobbyist working for the West Virginia Citizens Defense League publicly stated in front of approximately 100 people, including lawmakers, that he intended to kill the bill. He reportedly expressed concern that if the bill passed, it could lead to police officers being arrested for transferring machine guns, a legal argument that GOA directly contests as wrong, and I would also add my name to that as well. The same lobbyist reportedly threatened to work against a companion bill in a second state that has also advanced the same type of legislation, Kentucky. So we're talking about West Virginia and Kentucky, but your state too can get on board. Here is where the story gets into territory that every gun rights supporter needs to understand. The West Virginia Citizens Defense League responded to inquiries by confirming that indeed, that lobbyist has performed work for them, but responded that they have no official position on the bill. As I recall, they said something to the effect of they haven't had time to analyze it and kind of look at it and all that kind of stuff. Recall, it was moving through rather quickly, is my understanding. Whether that's reasonable, that's up to you. Some people have also pointed to the conspicuous absence from their website of Bill 1071, which is usually pretty good at being a good bill tracker, or to mention it in their legislative email updates to members, even while bills of far lesser significance were covered. I don't know all the details here, and the last thing I want to do is to throw anything at an organization that I'm sure is full of hard-charging, hardcore believing 2A volunteers and other folks. If folks in West Virginia, if you guys have more information for me to help clear some of this up, I'd be more than happy to chat with you and either post something to amend it or perhaps do a follow-up video about it. As of right now, I want to be very clear. I don't know what the truth of this is. And I'm certainly not throwing any accusations or anything like that around. I'm reporting what other people have said, and I'm letting you, as always, the viewer, decide. So what happened next? Well, Senate Judiciary Chairman Tom Willis then pulled the bill from further consideration, which effectively killed it for this session, even though Governor Morrisey had indicated that he would sign it if it got to his desk. Right. So let's just pause and frame out for a moment. We're talking about using the Hughes Amendment to get cheap machine guns to people who are not lawfully prohibited. The government will probably make a little bit of money too in West Virginia, so there's a little bit of a source of funds there as well. I'm going to point out that the Hughes Amendment, a lot of people feel, has never been properly litigated within a Second Amendment context, particularly when we're talking about in a post-2022 Bruen environment. Bruen was, of course, the United States Supreme Court case landmark decision that set the stage and set the rules for how we are, and by we, I mean the country, but I particularly mean the courts, to analyze and grade whether a law that impacts the Second Amendment is to be found constitutional or not. The significance of this, though, is that if a state like West Virginia, Kentucky, or we'll see who jumps on board the bandwagon next, activates the Hughes Amendment in this way, citizens get cheap accessibility to machine guns. If the Hughes Amendment gets struck down, citizens will get cheap accessibility to machine guns. This is one of those rare situations for gun owners where heads I win, tails you lose, gun control crowd. And then this all happened. Let me know what you think about all of this. What do you think is going on in West Virginia? And again, I'd love to be able to clear this up. I understand that there's, for some people going to be a shadow or stain against this organization that I'm confident has done so much hard work over the years. If they are genuinely innocent, I would love to be able to help them bring that to light. So again, invitation to talk to folks. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. You can figure it out, I'm sure. But let me know, you the viewer, what you think about all of this. Is this a story you want me to stay on? Not only in West Virginia with this lobbyist and that whole debacle, but also what's going on in Kentucky with this new proposed legislation. And of course, stay on top of this in 2027 to see if it gets reintroduced in West Virginia and see what the copy-paste buttons do in other states. Let me know if this is something in the comment section if you want me to stay on top of. I don't know what you guys want. Remember, I'm the internet to you. But the comment section and bumping into you guys in public, you're the internet to me. So you got to do your job. Let me know what you think. Hit that like button, share this video around if you've got any machine gun enthusiasts in your life, or maybe just people who should become machine gun enthusiasts. Let me know. We're going to close out with our ever popular quote of the day. This one comes from former President and 5-star General Dwight D. Eisenhower, who said, quote, "The strength of democracy is not in its government, but in its citizens and their willingness to defend their freedoms." Way to go, Dwight. I appreciate you sticking around. I'll see you in the next one. I'll see you in the comments section. Take care. Thanks for joining us on that video. And if you liked that one, then I think you're going to like these over here too.